Hello, 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 everyone. Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to Amplify Your Brilliance Mondays, where I give you the tools to activate your faith as you grow your business. And I'm so excited to be here with you for the fourth Wednesday of the year. Now, we're continuing with our theme. So, our theme for the whole year is This is our For Such a Time as This Year. And our theme for this series, this is our last set in theme one, right? So we have seven themes we're going through the year, is woman of strength and dignity. So tonight for week four, our conversation around that theme is what's love got to do with it, right? So as you're coming in, come on in, tell me name and where you're joining from. I'm going to keep talking because I have so much to give you guys tonight and make sure my comments are up. So say hello as you're coming in. If I share something that resonates with you, share that. If you have questions, comments, I'm all here for it all. I want to hear from you as I share with you tonight. So again, our theme, our kind of our muse for the year is Esther. And so everything I'm sharing with you is from Esther's journey, really for you to have your own for such a time as this moment. So if you haven't yet read the book of Esther, I want to encourage you to do that because throughout the year, I'll be coming to you and pouring more and more into you from Esther, right? So with that fun fact, before I start going in, giving you guys time to come on in, fun fact. So, still in COVID as we're shooting this week's episode. And literally, one of the things that I have not been able to do in COVID is shop. So I had a good time the other day. I really shopped in my own closet. So I cannot tell you this top is probably like 5 years old. It's falling off of me, right? And so I was like, oh my God, I got so excited because I started finding things that were hidden behind other things. So just a fun fact, as I'm waiting for you guys to come in, I got to shop in my own closet. So, the thing that I'm realizing that COVID has allowed us to do, if you've taken the time to do it, is to really do the things that you have not been able to do. Just a thought. Anyway, so with that, let me get started with our conversation for today. So again, our subject for today is what's love got to do with it? So I'm sure you've heard a couple of sayings that I wrote down, some sayings that all of us hear all the time. Things like the Chinese proverb that says, choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life. Have you ever heard that? Or how about Steve Jobs that said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it, keep looking, don't settle. Okay, so I can go on and on about that, but let me tell you something. I want to go deeper than that because I really want you to think about this. When you love someone, you will do whatever it takes to help them, to support them. And so, loving what you do and starting a business really around this thing that you're really, really great at is bigger than just loving it. So, I'm trying to pull up my comments because they're not coming up for some reason. So, if you're saying hello to me and my comments aren't up, I don't know why. Anyway, so it's bigger than that. So to really give you context to this, I want to read a passage out of Esther's story. So just to give you a little what was happening before she said this. So her uncle Mark. So first of all, if you haven't heard the whole story about Esther, go watch episode one. You can go see old episodes and I should have put this in a banner. So let me put it up here. It's should have been ready, right? On my YouTube channel. So where you see it is nrjnetwork.com. So if you've missed any episode, go over to my YouTube channel. You'll see week 1, week 2, and week 3 are there. So week 1, I gave you the whole overview of Esther. And every week, I'm teaching you something else from her journey. Again, it's nrjnetwork.com is where you go. So you can find that. All right. So with that, Esther has become queen. I'm not going to go over all the things she went through to become queen. Okay. But now Esther's queen. And so what I share with you in week 1 is she was a Jew. I told you all about how she became queen. A Jew should have never been the queen. So her uncle Mordecai, who who hooked her up and got her the job, comes and tells her, hey, your man's homeboy, Haman, wants to kill all your peeps. That's the Nicole Roberts Jones version, right? She literally says, listen, he says, excuse me, Haman wants to kill all your people. And so he says, who knows whether you come to the kingdom for such a time as this? And that's what we got our title, right? Because here's what I want you to understand about Esther's journey. She got to that great place, not for her, but so that she could stand in the gap for her people. And we've been able to witness some real life people that have been able to do that. You think of people like Rosa Parks. You think about people like Barack Obama. You think about people like Michelle Obama or Oprah. I'm going to say Oprah. You think about people, I can go on and on. Martin Luther King. Think about anybody you greatly admire. It's not about them. So dare I say, when you want to start a business, it's not about you, boo. It's about all the people that need that gift in you. So the question is, what are you willing to do to serve their need? That's the love I'm talking about. And that kind of love calls for you to sacrifice. So here's what Esther says back to her uncle once he says, tells her that the Jews were coming to, that Haman, the king's right hand man, wants to kill the Jews. He says, hey, you've got to do something. And he says, maybe this is the whole point of you coming to the kingdom. This is what she says back. This is Esther 4:16. She said, I will go into the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. See, she was willing to do whatever it takes to save her people. And when I think about Esther, I think about the mom who gives up her big corporate job to be a stay-home mom. Those of you that were part of our Power in Your Pivot Week last week, you heard JC Ellis, one of our experts, one of our powerful women that shared last week, talk about the fact that she gave up her huge corporate job to become a stay-home mom. Or how about the woman who makes the homemade soup, the executive that makes a homemade soup, brings it to you, nurses you back to her health, staying up all night with you. Has any of your girlfriends or mom or auntie ever done that for you? Knowing she has a presentation in the morning. I know there's been times I've stayed up with my husband, knowing sometimes I have a speaking gig in the morning. That's called sacrifice. How about the woman who has the job she always wanted and she gives it up because God is calling her to do something altogether different? Or those of you that have the title, the corner office, all the accoutrement that says success, and you give it up because you know that there's something bigger for you to do. I want you to think about the sacrifices you make for the people that you love. That's what I'm talking about. And so if you're going to really serve the people God has called you to serve, it's going to call for you to make sacrifices. Oh yeah, I said it. I know the sacrifice word is not a sexy word. It's not. But I need you to understand that if you're really going to be the woman that God has called you to be, if you're really going to serve all the people that need that gift in you, then you too, like Esther, are going to have to be willing to do what it takes. And 9 times out of 10, that calls for you to have to make a sacrifice. Now, before I dig into that, let me read another Bible verse to you. And God dropped this in my spirit. It was so deep, and I hope I can share it the way that I got it. So this is Romans 12:1. It says, and my 51-year-old eyes, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. In my Spirit-filled Bible, right? So it always gives me commentary so deep. And here I'm going to summarize it, but I'll share pieces of it. So the thing that I think is so deep, so this is taken from the New Testament. Those of you that are familiar with the Bible and you are familiar with Old Testament stories, in the Old Testament, you hear person after person sacrificing animals. Once they get into the New Testament, which is the New Covenant, they are no longer sacrificing animals. What God is saying instead is, I want you to sacrifice you. I want y'all to get this. So here's what it says. S in my notes section of my Bible. It says, as such, it's a rational response to God's mercies is to commit ourselves in act of worship. See, when you commit yourself as an act of worship, what you're doing is saying, listen, I'm going to sacrifice everything else to worship you, Lord. So I know for me, when God called me out of the job I've wanted ever since I was 7 years old, I had gotten my bachelor's degree was in it. I spent 8 years matriculating in that industry. And God was like, hold up, girl, I need you over here. And this is in 1993. I worked in entertainment. I worked for the hottest TV show on Fox at the time, a show that all of y'all watched, Trust. And I was going to all the high Hollywood parties when God tapped me on my shoulder, probably the naked one. And what God was calling me to do was become a coach. And listen, this is 1993. There was no such thing as a coach, but God wanted me to sacrifice. What he was saying is, will you trust me? What was happening for Esther in that moment? God was doing the same thing. Will you trust me? God is doing the same thing for you. How do I know? Because God never comes for where you already are. He comes for where you have not yet become, which always requires another level of you. So you've got to be willing to commit yourself. That's step number one. I'm looking at my steps. Look, I got notes, y'all, because I will talk on for hours, right? So the first thing you got to do is realize you got to commit yourself as an act of worship. If you think about it, a tithe, the Bible asks us to tithe. That's a sacrifice. You're sacrificing the first fruit off of your check to give back to God. So what if God said, tithe your gift to me? Your DNA, your distinct natural ability that I put inside of you? Why don't you tithe that back to me? Give me 10% of that. Come on, somebody. See, some of you guys are sitting in neat and comfortable. You're sitting in a big job and it's scary. And I get it. When God tells you to shift and do something different and you've never done it before, and listen, you're used to doing things a certain way. You're used to having a team that you could call and ask to do things. You're used to being able to hire consultants to do things. And God doesn't come with a group of consultants. He doesn't even come with an expense account for you. Oh, he know come. It's not going to be easy. Nothing great happens in easy. You have heard me say, if you've been in my community, that your comfort zone is where your dreams go to die, where your purpose dies. It's where the highest version of who God created you to be, that's the place it dies as well. It's in your comfort zone. So the familiar, the normal, the easy. Matter of fact, I posted this last week. Deliberate mediocrity is a sin. And some of you have been sitting deliberately in mediocre on purpose because it's hard, because you won't make the sacrifice. So I'm going to give you 5 things that you've got to sacrifice. If you really want to start a business and it be a faith, purpose driven business or a purpose focused business, if your business is the thing that God is calling you to do, and I know it is because listen, God put distinct natural ability in you. Right? I see more of you are joining, so say hello. And if I'm saying anything that's resonating with you, if you have a question, a comment, please share. So listen, God put distinct natural ability in you when you were born. He put DNA in you. He brought you here at this time of the world because he knew the exact way he wanted to use you. And every day you don't say yes to it and you come up with all the excuses of why you won't sacrifice what you need to sacrifice to do it. You're telling God he doesn't know what he's doing. You're telling God, oh, I don't have time for you. You're telling God, listen, I don't want to help those people. I don't want to be in alignment with what you have assigned me to do. Oh, yeah, I'm coming for you. Because it's the last Monday in January. You don't have time to waste. If this is for such a time as this year, it's time for you to get in gear with this. So I'm going to tell you the 5 things you must sacrifice to have a successful business. Not just to start it, but to be successful. When I'm talking about successful, money's going to come. So and yes, of course, I want to, and I teach you how to generate multiple streams of revenue. But here's the thing that is underneath that, actually above it, is when you make more money, you serve more people. So I'm more concerned with you serving more people because then it creates meaning for the people that need you. Listen, somebody's life, somebody's career, somebody's business is waiting for you. You're the answer that they've been looking for and praying for. You're somebody's answered prayer. So these are the 5 things you've got to sacrifice. Okay. First thing you got to sacrifice is where you are, your position, your title. You got to let that go. People, God doesn't care what your title is. Doesn't. He didn't care about the fact that I was working for the largest, the biggest, the hottest TV show on Fox when he tapped me on my shoulder. He didn't care. He didn't care who knew my name, knew me by first name. He did not care. He's no respecter of persons. What he knew is he had put gift in me for such a time as this. And in 1993 in riot-torn LA, when I started working with teenage girls, yes, I saw how this little Black girl from South Central LA who made a different choice. Trust, I was acting a fool like a lot of my friends in my neighborhood, dating people I had no business dating. That's a whole nother episode. But then I made a different choice and went to college. And my whole life shifted because of one choice. I always say life is dictated by the choices we make. I made one different choice. I'm not smarter than anybody else in my neighborhood. My parents don't make any more money. I just made one different choice that changed everything. When I got home and I graduated from college, I graduated and the riots happened like 6 months after I graduated. It might have been a year after I graduated. And I was still living with my parents when it happened. I couldn't even get home, y'all, from working in entertainment. I'm sharing that with you because I realized when I started working with young Black girls at my church in the middle of riot torn LA, I realized everything I had gone through was for such a time as this, so I could stand in the gap for them. Matter of fact, one of my girls was a gang member, and I remember I got in her face. Everybody else was scared of her. And I was scared too, but I knew how to call her bluff because I lived down the street from her, not physically, but other women like her. And so when she was acting all rough and tough, I said, "And what?" And she got in my face, and I stood there too. And she said, "Oh, I like you." What she was saying, she said this, she said, "I see you." No, she was saying that you see me. See, I realized everything I had gone through, the fact that I'm from South Central LA, the fact that I have a bachelor's degree, the fact that I went away to college and came back, which shifted my mindset, was for me to stand in the gap for those girls in that moment. Who needs you? You know, I have clients that have lost children and learned lessons, and now they stand in the gap for other women who have lost their children. I have clients who are lawyers that went through a horrible divorce, and now they're able to give resources, and we created programs for their clients to help their clients. Listen, divorce is more than just paperwork you fill out. Oh, there's a whole lot of stuff that happens around divorce. So now she has surround sound learnings, what I like to call it, because there's other programs that she can give to her clients, and they need it. Do you guys get that? The Bible verse says all things work together for the good, not some, all. So even for me, using myself for an example, I started working with African American teenage girls at my church. Another church called and wanted the program. Okay, did it in Orange County. The woman that started in Orange County, her name is Najuma. Sometimes she's here. Shout out to Reverend Najuma because now she's a pastor of her own church in LA. And so she said to me, "I see these girls' lives changing the same in Orange County. Girl, you need to do this." Let me tell you, I was afraid because of where I was. I hadn't left yet. I hadn't yet left entertainment. It was easier for me to do this and not and call it like a volunteer thing. But what she was doing was calling me out. And I'm gonna tell you, I said, let's pray about it, which is what most of us do when we are paralyzing, when we don't really want to activate what God has put in us. So I said, pray with me about it. When I said that, do you know churches started calling me out of nowhere? I started that chapter with her. I started the third chapter in LA. I got a call from a church in the next one was, I think, Florida. I ended up with 10 churches in 10 different cities throughout the country with chapters of my own, and it became a nonprofit. So over time, I quit entertainment to pursue this thing that I thought was what I was called to do. Why am I sharing that with you? Because even after I got my master's degree, this is a nonprofit. I'm thinking it's going well. God called me out of that and recalibrated me again because I began to see my girls graduating from college and having career issues, purpose placement issues, bankroll your brilliance issues. And so I started working with them around this. And yet again, I realized I had started that program with that nonprofit. I had learned more about my gifts and talents. I had left entertainment to now shift into this. And every time I've had to sacrifice, listen, it was hard for me to leave my nonprofit. And when God told me to leave, I said to God, "Why are you just not telling me this?" Because it was 20 years in. He said to me, and I quote, "Your ego couldn't take it." Now, let me tell you guys something. I don't hear God's voice often, but when I hear it and he says something like that, baby, sacrifice. It took me too long to move into this full time because I was so busy wondering what people were going to think about me, which is number two. You got to let go of perception and public opinion. This ain't nobody else's purpose but yours. Listen, on the day that you get to meet God face to face, nobody's going to be accountable to who you be and what you did on this earth but you. God's not going to say, "Oh, well, Lita and Nettie and Deidre told Nicole." Mm-mm. You're going to be accountable for it. I don't know why my comments are coming up, y'all. You're going to be accountable for it, right? And so I need you guys to get this. So you've got to let go of judgment and think I'm worried about what people say and what people have to think. It's not about any of them. It's about what God has put you here to do, which is, by the way, why I come here on Mondays. I'm going to give you some great journal work because you've got to sit in your being to get clear. So even as I've recalibrated every time, I'm in the middle of a new thing now too. Oh, Lord, I'll tell y'all about it when I get to the other side. It's good though. I see God moving, but if I don't sit in my being so I can get direction, which is the next thing Esther asked her handmaidens to do. Go read Esther chapter 4. That's the whole thing I'm teaching about tonight, right? Okay, so one, you got to let go where you are. You got to go look position, all of that. Even dare I say, you got to let go of your know-how. Now, I'm not saying that your know-how won't be used. Hey, Yolanda. But what I am saying is it's not enough. Oh, yeah, I said it. God's calling another level of you. So, like, even if I use Michelle Obama for an example, I love to use this as an example. In her book, Becoming, most of y'all have read Becoming. In chapter 10, she talked about the fact that she was a lawyer. She was great at it, but she hated it. I believe she came to that epiphany because God was rumbling inside of her another level. Now, she didn't know she was going to be the first lady. But I'm going to tell you, she left being a lawyer. She started running she was the executive director of a hospital, the charitable end of it. You think all of that didn't help her as our phenomenal first lady? All things work together. Her law degree, her running a big hospital nonprofit, those skills came in handy as our phenomenal first lady. But if you can't let go of yesterday to move on into tomorrow and you stay stuck, God can't use you. Okay. So I'm always, look, I commit to be here for 30 minutes. So let me stop going off on a tangent. So, number one, you got to let go of stability, is really what it is, of comfort, of being comfortable in your nice, cushy corner office. Good for you. God has more than that for you, right? Even Oprah had to let go of her TV show. TV show was great, but God was calling her to a network way bigger and scarier, which leads me into number two, comfort. It's not going to be comfortable. So many women that I'm blessed to coach and talk to. I haven't had an opportunity to travel, but even when I'm speaking at a virtual event and people make comments, the 9 times out of 10, what is keeping them where they are is their comfort. The greatest enemy to your faith isn't fear, it's familiarity. And that's a Stephen Furtick quote, by the way. The greatest enemy to your to your faith, isn't your fear, it's familiarity. Because when you feel familiar, when you get comfortable and God calls you out, you want to stay comfortable. That's like in the morning when well, I don't have an alarm. My body wakes up every day at 6. Well, 5:30 actually. My body wakes up at 5:30. I don't want to get up. I'm comfortable. And what I'm getting up for is I have Jesus time, but I'm not thinking about Jesus time. I'm cool with that. I'm thinking about the fact that I got to work out after that. I don't want to work out. But if you don't stretch and grow and do the work that you need to do, you won't get to where you want to get to. Point blank, period. So, comfort zones is where dreams go to die. I say it all the time because comfort and your conviction should never coexist. When God is convicting you to do something, to be something, you can't look for it to be comfortable. It's not going to be. So, those of you that are trying to use the skills you had in your corporate career and saying, okay, I'm going to hire this team of consultants that are going to work this thing out for me, that ain't going to work. God is calling you to something different. One of my favorite quotes is the tools you've used on this level are not sufficient for your next. You need new tools. So, the way you did it before is not going to work. Stop trying to look for the comfortable, easy way to do it. So, number one, where you are. Number two, comfort. Number three, perception. Well, number two was perception. Number four, biggest one, you got to let go of money. What do I mean by that? The biggest excuse that so many women make around why they're not starting their business is something around money. Then I see them walk away with Christian Louboutins on, they got a Louis Vuitton on their arm, they driving away a Mercedes. Oh, money not an excuse for all of that. But you want to invest in growing your DNA that God has placed inside of you. Listen, nobody's going to give you a loan to start a coaching business or consultancy. Nobody's going to give you a loan to do that. If they can't see, listen, do y'all watch Shark Tank? You can hear on Shark Tank, and that's a hard product. So you can do pretty much numbers. I'm going to sell 10 cell phone cases. Well, coaching is different. So it's hard to quantify at the beginning. After you've been doing it for 5 years, sure. But who's going to give you the start money in the beginning? You. See, I used to call my job my investor. See, when I was working my 9 to 5 and I was building my business alongside it, I started calling my 9 to 5 my investor because it was investing in me growing my purpose focused business. Matter of fact, Mark Cuban on Shark Tank once said that people who start businesses on loans are fools because then you got to pay it back. When I raise money in my business, I don't pay anybody back. So what you got to begin to do is look at what do you need to do to raise the amount of money you need to pay for the support you need. I know for me, when I hired my first coach, I opened up a credit card. I didn't know how I was going to pay that bill, but what I did know, And by the way, my coach was 30,000. So that was no, so I made monthly payments. I didn't just put 30,000 on my card. But I said, I'm committed. I'm going to do whatever it takes every month to pay that minimum balance every month. And I did. And then within 6 months, I paid it off in full because I did all the work. And many of you guys have heard my story. I went from making 13,000 in my business to over 200,000 in 6 months. And I've been growing ever since because I got coaching. Listen, you got to invest at the level you want to see the return. So you've got to sacrifice money to get where you are. So those of you that keep showing up for free this and free that, you trying to piece together all this free, will never work. Trying to Google, I'm gonna get on this webinar, then I'm gonna Google it. If it was that easy, everybody would be Oprah. Because shoot, I'd be an Oprah like status from all the Googling I do. For the amount of Googling I do, I hire coaches. And then last but not least, the biggest one, you got to, I don't know if you want to let go of, but be willing to do it afraid. You got to sacrifice fear because fear will be present, but you can't let your fear paralyze you. You can't let your fear, and listen, fear only comes because you're playing bigger than you've ever played before. I believe that God puts us in places that we have to be afraid so that all we can do is trust him. One of my favorite Bible verses is, I think it's Proverbs 4, 5, and 6. Somebody correct me. It's trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. I'm going to look that up. One of my favorite, so I know by heart. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. So when you're trying to lean on who you already are and what you already know how to do and the way you know how to do it, you will fail every time. Especially if you're trying to do something you've never done before. If you're doing something you've never done before, again, you're going to need new tools, right? You're going to need new tools. There's no way you can get away from it. No way. No way you can get away from it. Trying to see. Yep. Look, I have a little heart there. It's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I got a little heart right there. I love it. A little star. Because I look, it's one of my favorite Bible verses. Thank you. Oh, you had just written it, Yolanda. Thank you, girl. 3, 5, and 6, right? Because if you don't learn that God would never give you more than you can bear, when God gives you a gift, he expects you to pay it forward. Again, that's an act of worship. When you're willing to do whatever it takes to be the woman God has called you to be, it's an act of worship. You heard me read the Bible verse. Where'd it go? Romans 12:1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. So when you do what it takes and you sacrifice your time. Oh, I forgot to tell you, but that's another one. That's number 6. You sacrifice your money. You sacrifice perception. You sacrifice working through fear. You sacrifice comfort. You sacrifice who you already are to go after who you have not yet become. That's when you are moving toward being the woman God has called you to be. To do anything less than that is to dwell on a level of existence God has not created you to dwell on. So I'm going to leave you with that word for this Monday. So listen, as I do every Monday, I give you journal work because listen, if you're going to grow past where you are, you've got to sit in your being. 15 to 20 minutes a day is all I suggest. I give you a theme for the week. So this one's 2 pages, right? And the reason I do that, and I want to encourage you to get a journal, and I meant to bring my journal up here from one of my girlfriends who was my assistant, who's now my girlfriend, right? She created a journal, so hopefully I'll bring it up here next week. I can't even think the name of it. I need to ask her for the link. Forgot to do all that. So listen, I give you the journal. Every week, I add another layer in it. So I suggest you get a notebook, get a 3 and punch holes in it and put week after week in it, and then get a journal. Here's my journal right here. I have a journal. She has a journal, which is good. And here's a journal I have here too, where I just write my thoughts in it, right? And so I suggest you get a journal, just a book with blank in it, that you could sit in 20 minutes of quiet contemplation and whatever's coming up for you. So our conversation for this week is love got to do with it. I want you to think about, what is it that you are being called to sacrifice? I want you to think about what's blocking you. I've given you some things to think about in here. I'm giving you, this is added to it. I want you to really look at, when you move all the limits off the table, every option is moved off the table. When your only option is to be obedient to what God is calling you to be and do. And when you don't know what that is, then come on here on Mondays. I got way more to teach you. I got you. But I'll tell you one thing, the way you'll learn it is to sit in quiet contemplation with God. So again, Every Monday, I'm here for Amplify Your Brilliance to give you tools to activate your faith as you grow your business because you won't be successful with one, your business, without the other. Because of everything I just talked to you about, all the areas that you've got to sacrifice, you can't make a great sacrifice without believing in the God that you're sacrificing for. You're not doing this for you. You're doing it because God put you here, assigned to a group of people that need you. That is why you say yes to your assignment. So with that said, that's our conversation for today. Thank you for joining me. Go to get your journal. It goes into my Facebook group, the Women of Brilliance Tribe. Now listen, I have some yummy content coming in the Women of Brilliance Tribe in February. So you want to join to get your journal. Yes, of course, every week. And you can get week 1, week 2. Listen, week 1 has the beginning and the overview and it gives you the theme for the year. Themes. There's 7 themes this year. This is theme 1. Next week I'll start theme 2. Where's my theme list? Next week. So we've been in theme 1. Theme 1 is be a woman of strength and dignity. So that was theme 1. Next week, we start theme 2, which is keep your eyes on the prize. Whew. So we have 7 themes we're going to go through this year. Beyond excited about everything I'm going to share with you, again, to give you the tools to activate your faith to grow your business. Okay. So I will be doing some yummy things starting next week in the Brilliance Tribe. So you want to join not just to get the journal, but to get the tools. I'll be starting next week. So with that, have a phenomenal rest of your day. I'll see you next Monday for another episode of Amplify Your Brilliance Mondays. Do me a favor. Will you share at least one comment, one thing you got out of today? Tell me the value you got. And if you have questions, please always post them here. And then the other favor I want to ask you to do is share. If you're getting value out of these conversations, please share with other women that they would join us on Mondays. Every Monday, I'm here with you, 7 p.m. EST. Thank you and have a great evening. Tonight's takeaway is me humming No Pain, No Gain. Come on, Betty Wright. I love it. No pain, no gain. That's right. Even listen, even when you're pushing a baby out, you forget about the pain after the baby comes out and the gift that you have that you're holding in your hands. Listen, I haven't had any babies, but I have some phenomenal nieces and nephews and godchildren. So I've witnessed it. So no pain, no gain. That's right, Yolanda. So again, you guys come on back, share. If you missed any of the previous episodes, again, you can go watch them on my YouTube channel, which is nrjnetwork.com. Have a phenomenal rest of your Monday, and I'll see you next Monday for Amplify Your Brains Mondays. Bye, y'all.